Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Walden Wong Inks. Today we're going to talk about filling in blacks on Black Panther. Since the movie just came out, I figure what better time it is than to show a video of me filling out the inks on Black Panther. So without further ado, here we go. On an issue of Black Panther, issue number 16, so check it out in stores. So here, I'm just filling in blacks. All the areas I've already inked already, either with a repeatograph or a brush or a quill, and then I'm just going back and using a dull brush to just fill in the black areas. As you can see, some of the white speed lines in the back, I just inked around it, like filling in the blacks around it. I can easily just fill in everything with black and then go back with a white pen or a white ink and then just ink that line on top of the blacks. But sometimes I just feel like inking around the white area. That way I don't have to like fuss around with areas and having to use white ink to dip on top. Look on the top left. You see all that extra ink I put on? So when I ink with a dull brush, I'm dipping the brush into the inkwell, and I dip a lot of ink, so much so that the paper won't absorb all the ink as quick as I'm filling in the black. So I would go back into the area that's a lot of ink and pull some ink from there and continue inking. The more ink you have in the brush, the longer you'll be able to ink in the area without having to dip into your bottle of ink. So here, filling in black areas is also an art in itself, because you want to keep track of where you're inking. So in this case, my wrist, I try not to go back into any of the areas that I've inked. Throughout the whole page, I try not to have my wrist touch any of the areas that I've inked. So I'm turning the page ever so slightly to make sure my hand don't roll back into an area of the ink that's not completely dry yet. So you notice here I'm turning this upside down, and then as I reach towards the top left corner, I'm turning it this way towards the left, and then I'm going to continue filling in the blacks. Notice that my right hand doesn't go on top of any area that I've inked. Look at that big glob of ink that I put down. Eventually I'm going to have to go back in there and pull some of that ink and ink another area. So here I noticed that I have some hatch lines that I didn't ink, and then I'm going back in there with a micron and then adding those lines. It's a good way to be able to spot check your own work while you're filling in the blacks. Don't just fill in the blacks and then not think about anything, but look at some of the areas that you inked already and see if you're missing any of the areas. Again, notice my right hand is not touching that first panel. And then when I'm finished with the second panel, both my hands, I don't touch panels 1 or panel 2, because who knows if there's going to be any ink that's not going to be completely dry. So now I'm moving on to the third panel. As I'm inking the third panel, I try not to touch panel 1 or panel 2. I'm going from top left to bottom right as I'm inking. Look at that big glob of ink. So much ink there that if I move the page at a certain time, that ink can flow down. I work on an inclined table, so sometimes you just have to go back in there with your brush and then dip some of that ink. So I'm going to move on to the rest of the inked areas that needs to be spotted in blacks. Right there. And then from top to bottom, and then just ink my way across to the right, making sure I don't touch any of panel 1, panel 2, and any of panel 3 that I worked on. As I'm inking, notice that I'm inking all the outsides of the line. I call this the edge inking, or edge blacks. What I'm doing is I'm inking every area that has a line on as close as I can towards the outside of the edge, because with that you need to concentrate on what you're inking. All the interior part is more freehand and you don't really need to concentrate as hard. So notice I'm doing all the edges first, and then I'm going back to do the insides of that, top, right, bottom, and then get a big blob of ink, and then I'm filling that in. Same here, do the edges and then come back and then fill in the center. Now panel 1, 2, 3 is then I'm moving on to panel 4. Again, doing all the edges. Now right here I notice that I need to halo a white line. So when you're haloing stuff, make sure the halo goes all the way across. Okay, Okay, back into filling in the inks on this area. More. Notice, so all the edges are done, and then I'm just filling in the center. So while you're inking, just make sure inks are dried. Make sure you're not going back into the same area, and then your hand will smudge the ink, because nothing's worse than smudging your work and then having to white out the area or re-inking the whole panel or the whole page again. Now, as I'm making these fingers, you just have to concentrate a little bit more. So the ink I'm using here is Speedball Indian ink. Speedball Indian ink, and I'm using a Pentel watercolor brush pen. I'll add links below so you can see what kind of inks I'm using. Okay, right here I'm using repeatograph to inking some of the works that inking some of the lines that I missed in the beginning, and then after I fill that in, I'll go back and continue adding some of the black areas. So again, I'll add in links to the bottom of the page so you can see what type of inks if you wanted to buy some of these ink. I prefer using Speedball ink when I'm filling in the blacks, because that ink is just so smooth and it flows better on the brush. Now, making the last panel, notice I'm not touching any of the panels on the top 1, 2, 3, or 4. Panels 1, panel 2, panel 3, or panel 4. I'm staying on the last panel, and then I'm just filling that in, making sure my wrist doesn't touch any of the inked areas. I'll also add links to the page, and then just a few more areas, and this page will be completely done. Now I'm going to show you the whole page. You can pause the video and take a look at some of the details that I've done here. So here are the panel 1 is panel 2, here's panel 3, panels 4 on the bottom left, and panel 5 on the bottom right. Feel free to pause the video and take a look at some of the work. And there you have it. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Walden Inks. And if you have any questions, comment down below. And thanks for watching. Hit like and don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, have a good time inking Black Panther, and don't forget to fill in the blacks.